All right, hello, Jumpstart family. So I am going to walk you through Samegoal. So it's just a different program. Sometimes you'll hear it called IEP Anywhere. I know we use the progress book form prior to during class. So you'll notice some similarities and some differences in the functioning. But I just really want to show you how you can utilize Samegoal and filling out the forms in a more standardized way. So when you open an IEP, it actually populates a lot of this information for you. So I just deleted it because I didn't want to get in trouble for having personal information. So I'm just going to use my daughter's information. So that way nobody can accuse me of sharing information. So you put in the street in the city. So ours, because I'm in Southwest Licking Schools, ours has the populated cities that a student could live in within our district. So that's just a simple example of putting these in to make a very streamlined process. Now, obviously you can type, if they live in a different city, you can put that in instead. It also has the zip codes, which helps me too to remember the different zip codes. Same with the district of residency, county of residency, and then obviously the district of service is always Southwest Licking because that's the home district. So a lot of these yes, nos are the same. The initial IEP annual review, that's all over here. This is where the parent and guardian information would occur. This IEP form status we talked about before. I don't check it up here in progress book. I think you have to come back and check it up here, but I will show you. So if we scroll down to section 1, if I check it on the bottom of section 1, it automatically checks it at the top. So that just kind of gives you a real quick glance. So you can check it as you go. The first kind of standardized thing we have here is other information. I know we really didn't talk about this in class, but we are always told to put autism and John Peterson's special needs scholarships, which you guys may or may not be familiar with. I work on the scholarship IEP team on my school. So a little bit of background is just parents can choose to take these scholarships and send their kids to other buildings. So we just tell parents that that's available. Same thing for Medicaid. So your service providers will bill for Medicaid, whether or not the kids actually receive Medicaid, we don't know that. Something else I put in here. And I always put the procedural safeguards link in here. It's just kind of like a covering yourself in case you forget to give them a hard copy or anything. You just know it's actually in the IEP. And Samegoal allows for electronic sharing. So I will actually share this document electronically and it will go to the parent's email. So that way it's in there already. All right, so there's really usually not anything under future planning. These are just the yes, no buttons that we talked about. All right, so the first drop down that's really crucial is the profile. So if you forget what you're supposed to be putting in here, we actually have it pre-populated. Now, this is just a random order. I kind of like to reorganize it. You know, there's no right or wrong answer here. This is just the stuff that our district expects to be included in the profile. So you can see I just clicked the button and it popped up there. So there's also here other school age headers versus preschool headers. So it will look different. So preschool looks a little bit different again versus, let's go down, versus school age, which was the first one I populated up. So again, that just, it depends what your district wants, but this is just what our district requires in our IEP profiles. We talked about extended school year. There's really nothing about post-secondary transition that's pre-populated. I haven't worked with that just because I've worked with preschool, so I'm sure you could create little pre-formulated statements in there. So measurable annual goals. So this is cool because the area you can pick from too. So if you're not really sure like what category your goal falls under, it kind of gives you some, is it reading, decoding, fluency, comprehension? It can kind of help you think through what you're going to title it. And this is for the plot statement or the plat statement. So again, that was just pre-populated. I quickly hit the button and I didn't even have to think about it. The only thing that we sometimes like to add, especially for preschool, is parent priorities. If you're working with school age or especially transition service kids, you might put student priorities in here as well. You don't want too much information, but adding those little things kind of makes your IEP just a little bit better. All right, so section 7 is the summary of services. So this is like the how you're going to serve the child. Again, is nice. So those goals addressed are in there. The provider titles are in there as well. So you don't have to think about like typing speech pathologist or intervention specialist, as well as the location of services. So we tend to say very specific things like they're getting services in a therapy room, a resource room, a preschool setting, or gen ed room, which can get complicated because the way we did our IEPs is we said across all school settings, but that's not very specific. So say you have a goal that's a social or an adaptive goal that you're working in the gen ed classroom and in the resource room, you would actually just type that goal twice and say, I'm going to do it in the gen ed classroom 20 minutes a week, and then another 20 minutes a week in a resource room. So our district wants us to be very specific about exactly where they're getting those services. So when you're talking about the EMIS code, so that's the percentage of time in or outside of the general education setting, it's a lot easier to think about when you break it down like that. And per school week, almost always, or monthly. Again, these are just really big time savers. The other one, and the same is for related service, but the other part I wanted to show you, so accommodations is a big thing. If you forget what an accommodation is, or you're not really sure what your kid might benefit from, we have this box, and I like to click on all of them. I know that seems excessive, but then it kind of gets me to go through and think like, oh yes, the kid needs this, or the kid doesn't need this, or the kid doesn't need it in this way, but I'm going to reword it in order to support the kid. So just, and this is so comprehensive that it really makes you think through the different classroom environments. All right, transportation we really didn't talk about. This is another fun one too. So when we were audited, we were told that the section 9 statements, when you talk about what the kids can and can't do, they wanted them to be more consistent across the buildings. So we created a little statement where it says first, so you type in, I'm going to use my daughter's name. Her name is Kaylee. Kaylee is encouraged to participate in non-academic extracurricular activities with her non-disabled peers. Same thing down here. Kaylee and her family will determine her participation in community events and activities. I didn't have to think for more than 2 seconds about that. And now all of our section 9 statements are the same. All right, least restrictive environment is the same. I am going to do preschool just because it's what I'm most familiar with. And there's more portions to the preschool section as well. So we're going to say that they are in regular education services, and most services are in the program. All right, so at the school age LRE. This little red dot here just tells you you're supposed to be doing this, but I am pretending this is a preschool IEP, so we're just going to ignore that. So this would just be where you would put the different statements. We don't have pre-written statements here, but this is where you could have your service provider type in. If they do push-in services, they could put that in there, or if they do pull-out services, they put that in there. And again, that can just be a really simple thing to do. Section 12 is the other nice area. So this is the testing accommodations. So the details of the accommodations, what we're going to focus on, like we don't have an assessment title just because it's easier. I think it's easier not to, depending what grade you're working with. But again, if you prefer it to just be ready to go, you can actually go in here, edit, and you yourself, so I can see this, I can put in map, because that's maybe the assessment, or maybe you use star, or maybe you're talking about the graduation test. I can put map in there. I'm going to add map. I could put star in there. I'm going to add star. And I'm actually going to put graduation test as well. Done. So now I can go in here and hit map just for the fun of it. Same with the accommodations, kind of like before. You just easily grab it and plug it in. And that way, you know, the kids are all getting the same types of accommodations. So when they are going into testing, you can group kids according to their accommodation needs. If this group of kids needs small group and gets breaks every 5 minutes, then that's an easy way to just sort them real quick and know, okay, these 10 kids are going to go with this parapro, or we need 5 more parapros because these kids, you know, I can still go in there and edit and say needs one-on-one support for testing. So, and then, you know, it's in there ready to go. And that's pretty much it. So the other really nice thing that I like to do in here, and I don't know if it said this in progress book, but when I talked about the procedural safeguards, we actually have a button that says I gave it to them electronically. So, and then you can say, yes, I gave it to them. And again, we can look at this checkbox. If I check these boxes and go all the way back up to the top, and then it will show you which boxes you checked. Okay, I checked from sections 1 and 15. That means I need to go and see what's not done with the rest of them. All right, I hope that's helpful and not too overwhelming and too much information. So just let me know what you guys think and if you want me to kind of go into detail about any of those other parts. All right.